What happens when the only way to reach people in desperate need is to talk to those causing violence? In conflict settings around the world, humanitarian organizations are often faced with an impossible choice. Do we engage with violent actors to gain access? Or do we walk away, knowing that civilians may be left without assistance? These decisions are rarely black and white. They sit at the uncomfortable intersection of ethics, security, humanitarian principles, and organizational responsibility.
We are in business to help people, right? So when they need water, we need to give them water. Yeah. But the moment it is possible, we prefer to give them some job, right? Even if it's to clean a street or to cook something or to make something, so that they can have an income and have their own dignity back. Because holding up your hand for food and oil and water is not dignified for people, right? It's not alive. So that is what UNDP wants to work on from the very beginning, but all the way into the development phase.
Welcome to Negotiating Access, Ethics at the Frontline of Humanitarian Action. In this episode, we explore the ethical dilemmas humanitarian actors face when negotiating access in conflict settings, and what these dilemmas mean for staff safety, accountability, and the people humanitarian action is meant to serve. Humanitarian access refers to the ability of humanitarian actors to safely and independently reach population affected by crisis, and the ability of those populations to receive assistance without discrimination. In theory, humanitarian principles of neutrality, impartiality, and independence should guarantee access. In reality, access is shaped by armed conflict, fragmented authority, insecurity, checkpoints, political restrictions, and deliberate obstruction. In many contexts, violent actors, whether state forces, non-state armed groups, or criminal organizations, control territory and movement. For humanitarian organizations, this often makes engagement unavoidable. But engagement raises difficult ethical questions. Does negotiating access legitimize violent actors? Can humanitarian principles be preserved through dialogue? What risks are acceptable and who decides?
Humanitarian work, if done well, saves lives and relieves suffering. It is often also an enjoyable and rewarding experience for those who bring the assistance. The great majority of humanitarian staff carry out their work without harm, but some have become sick, some have been injured, some have been held hostage, and some have been killed while doing their work. Each individual is responsible for security, as well as the security of their colleagues and others. The actions of one person can have an effect on the security of others in the same organization, members of other organizations, and local people. Line managers at all levels are responsible for ensuring the security of their team as a whole. To help them in this task, they may delegate some security-related functions or take advice from a colleague who specializes in security matters. But the main responsibility for the team's security should belong to the line manager.
Frameworks like the core humanitarian standard emphasize accountability, safety, and dignity, while people in aid reminds us that ethical action depends on how organizations manage and protect their staff. Yet these frameworks do not offer simple answers. Ethical access decisions are made in uncertainty, under pressure, and often with incomplete information. Let's consider a common field scenario. A humanitarian organization is operating in a conflict-affected region. Thousands of civilians are trapped in an area controlled by a non-state armed group. Malnutrition rates are rising. Medical supplies are critically low. the only way to reach the population is to negotiate access with the armed group controlling the territory. The group demands prior notification of movements, escorts during distributions, and informal coordination meetings. No money is requested, but visibility and acknowledgement are implied. The field team is divided. Some argue that engagement is necessary to save lives. Others worry that the organization's neutrality will be compromised, that aid could be diverted, or that staff may become targets. Security staff warn that escorts could blur the line between humanitarian and military actors. Program staff stress that delays could cost lives. The decision must be made quickly.
While staff and volunteers of the National Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies work closely with communities and oftentimes come from the communities, access to those in need is not guaranteed. This is largely because access and acceptance is influenced by how stakeholders perceive our work. If individuals or groups of people, including beneficiaries, do not understand who we are, what we do, how and why we do things, suspicion arises, which can affect our access and acceptance. Such suspicion could easily lead to suspension or blockage or even to severe security incidents when not addressed. How we work and apply the fundamental principles in our actions and activities contributes to safer access.
This is not an abstract ethical debate. It is a real operational dilemma faced by humanitarian actors across contexts such as Syria, South Sudan, Afghanistan, Somalia, and parts of the Sahel. This scenario highlights several ethical tensions. First, accountability to affected populations. The core humanitarian standard emphasizes the right of people to receive assistance that is safe, dignified, and appropriate. Denying access may violate this commitment, but so may delivering aid under conditions that expose communities or staff to harm. Second, staff well-being and duty of care. People in Aid reminds us that ethical humanitarian action depends on how organizations support and protect their staff. Negotiating with violent actors exposes staff to moral stress, fear, and security risks that can lead to burnout or moral injury. Third, security risk management. Guidance such as the ECHO Generic Security Guide and GPR8 stresses the risk cannot be eliminated, but must be reduced to acceptable levels. The question becomes, acceptable to whom?
It is not possible to eliminate risk, but it is usually possible to reduce it. A passenger in a car reduces risk by wearing a seatbelt and ensuring that there is a competent driver, but knows that some risk remains. In a similar way, humanitarian staff can take precautions to reduce risks, but can never reduce them to zero. In some cases, whatever measures are taken, the risks remain high. Humanitarian workers learn to balance risk against benefit. If the likely benefit of your work is great, for example, it will save many lives, and the risk is small, then you should decide to go ahead and do the work. But if the likely benefit is small and the risk is great, you will normally decide not to do the work since it is not worth the risk.
Finally, organizational responsibility. Access decisions should not rest on individuals alone. Ethical engagement requires leadership, collective analysis, documentation and learning, not heroic or isolated decision making.
For me, security skills are a variety of capacities in an individual which basically makes him or her to survive in an insecure environment, retaining her health, safety and well-being. I mean, if you want a shopping list, those kind of skills are basic security awareness, image, code of conduct, to understand the context where we are and put her or himself in the context, in the right place. Have a preventive thinking. As I always say, think twice, act once. Defensive driving, use of radio, team player, information sharing, obtaining information, analyzing information. I mean, there's a long shopping list. All these are security skills, individual skills, which make you an operational person.
At organizational level, access negotiations are rarely just failed decisions. Headquarters may impose red lines. Donors may have compliance requirements. Legal team may flag risks. Security team may prioritize staff safety. Yet field teams often carry the burden of implementation and the consequences. Strong organizations approach access ethically by defining clear negotiation principles, involving multidisciplinary teams, documenting decisions and trade-offs, supporting staff before, during, and after negotiations. Ethical access is not about perfect choices, but about responsible processes. So what can we learn from this? Ethical access decisions should be guided by humanitarian principles, accountability to affected populations, duty of care to staff, contextual risk analysis, organizational learning.
If you're not passionate, if you're not willing to sort of like be on the front lines and committed to be accountable too, because you have to take responsibility. You can't be a bystander in these sort of situations. About participation is really important too, because often what happens when people go to refugee settlements or urban environments and they look for participation, they take the ones who can speak English or who are very, let's say, alpha oriented, like they're the first ones to step up. They may have linkages to the authorities. That's not what's important. What is important is going to what we'd say the back of the tent.
Yeah.
Right. What about the situation of the elderly? What about the situation of the pregnant women, conservative groups, Indigenous groups? Take the time to go to the back of the tent, go to the furthest away, the ones who do not want to speak, and sort of say, why, like, what is the situation that you're facing?
Some reflection questions for practitioners. What compromises are acceptable and why? Who is included in access decision making? How are staff protected and supported? And how do we learn from past negotiations? There are no universal answers, but there must be ethical reflection. Negotiating access with violent actors is one of the most ethically complex tasks in humanitarian action. These decisions test our principles, our organizations, and ourselves. By creating space for reflection, learning, and dialogue, humanitarian actors can better navigate these dilemmas, not by avoiding complexity, but by engaging with it responsibly. Thank you for listening to Negotiating Access, Ethics at the Frontline of Humanitarian Action.